everyone, and welcome to the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show. My name is Vanita Lambert, and I'm the host of the show. I have the honor of hosting the show every single week to bring information to our community. This platform was implemented by Mr. David Goodman, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but his purpose was to keep our community informed. And so I'm trying to carry on that tradition by bringing on special guests. And today I have Pastor Leston Black. He is an educator, he's an author, and he is also a life coach. So Pastor Black, welcome to the David Goodman Show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on, and thank you for the information that you're going to share with the greater Bridgeport community. We really do appreciate it, and we appreciate you. And I'm hoping this is live on YouTube, so whoever's watching, make sure you share it with your family and your friends, because today we're going to be talking about the subject of mental health in the family with the children. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So please reintroduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Leston Black, and I'm from Jamaica, the wonderful island in Jamaica. And most of my work and research was done in Jamaica. I started out in the church as a pastor. Of course, I moved to the school, to the classroom, because most of the action was in the classroom. The teachers were there. And I was doing most preventative medicine, working with the kids. So what I did for 20 years in Jamaica is go home to home, talking to parents. Of course, the teacher introduced me to these parents and share with them information on how to raise or bring up healthy kids and keep them connected to the school system. And it was a success. It was a success because some of the kids I met, they were at the bottom of the class. And after talking to parents and parents make a little changes at home, they moved to the top of the class. And that's what motivated me to write this book. And of course, it was encouraged by my grandmother, who was a wonderful person. They were in the ministry, they were in the Baptist church. And that was the community I grew up in Jamaica, the Baptist community, the school and everything. So that's what motivated me to write this book. And I think the church is still a wonderful place to connect with family and friends and all those good stuff.
Wonderful. What an asset we have here. And what an opportunity we have to learn how to make our families better or how to help our families. So I love the way that you went door to door and taught teach the parents the things that the kids needed to know that they were learning in school, because you're only in school, and I'm looking at one of your books, 14% of their time is spent in school.
Right.
So the majority of their time is out of school, and you took advantage of that by going door to door and teaching the parents and the children together. Is that
right?
That's awesome. Just imagine if we had that here.
Yeah, what I would do, I would spend like one day a week in different homes, and I would work with the first child.
Okay.
And the parents would work with the second child, the third child, and if there's a fourth child. And some of those parents even become teachers.
Oh.
That's how effective the program was.
Well, parents are teachers.
Parents are teachers, but
I don't have the degree to say I'm a teacher, but
right.
I'm a parent.
Parents are teachers, and they are,
in so many different ways.
In so many different ways.
Just kidding.
But they go into the classroom and
Exactly.
teach other children.
Right.
That's how, encouraging it was. It was a community-based thing, and thank God for the Kiwanis Club. And of course, there was a book, an encyclopedia book they call a World Book Encyclopedia in the library. Most information I got from that set of book done by some teachers, international research, of how kids, why some children don't do well. And what they said that 95% of us has the ability to do well. It's all depends on our environment, why we don't do well. So I try to bring much of those knowledge to the parents and educate them on what these teachers have to say about learning home and school. And what they say that, they were the one who emphasized from birth to 18, the child spent 86% of the time outside the classroom. I know 14% in. And that's why they designed this book now to give to parents. So, most parents take it for granted that, some people say, God, is according to God's will. But children live what they learn.
That's right.
Children live what they learn. So if you give them the proper nutrition and the proper, environment of kindness and love, they're going to grow up in the right way. And my philosophy at the time was train up a child in the way he should go, according to the Bible. And I think that statement is right. And if you don't really grow them in the right way, they are going to sometimes choose the wrong way.
Absolutely. But the one thing about the teachings is you teach them the right way, and a lot of kids are going to stray. They're going to follow the crowd and do this and do that. But, they have the teachings. They can compare the bad with the teachings that you gave them. And sometimes a lot of the children always go back.
They come back around.
They do, because they have something to compare it to. It's unfortunate for the children who don't, because they only know one way.
One way, well, that's the good thing about teaching the right way. Because if they only know one way, they don't have a choice. And you want to give them choices, because the good and the bad is out there. And I've written this book here, on the emotional level about good and bad. The bad, emotion, the good emotion. And I understand what the bad emotion can do to a lot of people, a lot of kids.
We've all seen it. So tell us a little bit about that book, The 5 Killers of Learning.
Killer Emotion, 10 Fruit of Love.
So the 5 killer emotions versus 10 fruits of love. I'm sorry, I read it wrong.
Right. It's about the compassion. The 5 killer emotions are the fruits of compassion, like anger, fear, guilt, self-pity, and shaming. It's like those destroy the self-esteem. And the 10 fruit of love now is what build up the self-esteem.
So let me just interrupt you for 1 second. So the 5 killer emotions are the ones that you say the parents should not show the children. Anger, what are they again?
Fear.
Anger, fear.
Guilt. Self-pity.
And
shaming.
The children. So for example, if you had a child that peed in the bed when they were little, when they were like, grade school or a teenager, you don't do anything to shame them out of it. You love them out of it.
You love them out of it.
Some kids just can't help themselves.
You know what? A friend of mine said, competition bring the best out of us.
Competition?
Bring the best out of us. But I believe that love and kindness bring the best out of us. Our love and kindness bring the best out of us. Because, for example, if you're in a relationship and your partner is spurring a lot of hunger, cause you to be fearful, make you feel guilty, shaming you, and belittling you. That relationship is not going to last.
Get rid of them.
Yeah, but if relationship
if they're doing all that, get rid of them.
If relationship is about gentleness, peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, love, and trust in each other, that relationship have a chance. And the same thing with the children. The same type of, do unto others what you want others to do unto you. I mean, sometimes the kids are weak, so, my grandmother always said the cow always jump on a weak fence. So we beat up on the kids. We bully them as a parent.
They do. That's so awful.
And oftentimes the same bullying that we give to our children, they give it back to other children in their school or in the community.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful what we put out there when it comes to children, because they are learning from us.
Exactly. They do. So it's up to the parent to pretty much set the pace. And if the children are at home and their home is not a good surrounding, then there's places that you can take your children for that calm, love, learning, atmosphere, like the library.
Library, right?
Okay, that was one
One
of the
those
things that you
place-
mentioned
Right.
in your other show. Take them to the park. There's
Park.
lots of ways
Yeah,
to
take
get
'em to
them
the
out
beach.
of
Yeah.
to
If
get
there's
them
any
out
beach
of
around.
a negative environment into a positive, loving, kind environment.
Right,
You
right.
know, and there's so many simple little things that you can do with children to show them love. Most kids just want attention.
Right.
And that will resolve so many problems. Even if you're, rich or poor, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Especially if you're rich and you're always working and your kid never sees you, then they do things. And I've seen shows like this, like they'll steal stuff to get your attention.
Right.
If they're still stuff that they don't need because they're rich and their parents can buy them whatever they want. So, there's just so many different ways to show love.
Right,
And to
right.
raise your children and to address mental health issues. Because that's where mental health issues, in my opinion, stems from. You're in the home, and maybe there's too much fighting, or just whatever negative is going on in your home, and your children are in that atmosphere and they're learning and feeling it, and that starts a lot of the, I think, mental health issues.
That's what
I think it does.
That's why scientists said, That's what a lot of scientists said, because they said that, they always talk about government. If government can invest in family, then we are going to have a better environment, we are going to have a better school, we are going to have a better classroom.
School has a lot to do with
Yeah.
it also.
Yeah. But the home, that's where most of the things started. Most of the things started because that's where the kids learn a lot of stuff. And I believe that most of the things that we do are learned behaviors, includes mental health. I don't understand everything about mental health, but look, I understand, we live what we learn. And the thing that we hack out there is, because it's about destroying our self-esteem, it's about not creating opportunity. A lot of men are in and out of jail because they didn't have the skill set to really join the workforce. Those type of stuff, we have to be careful that we give the kids the skill that they need, skill set that they need that can go and make a good living. And if they don't have it, then
It's hard on the kids.
we know what it.
It's hard on the kids when, there's a lot of peer pressure and you don't have, some of the things that all the other kids have. And, that right there starts them to thinking about doing negative things to get the things that they want. Like, I don't know, Nike sneakers if they couldn't afford it and they have to wear a cheap pair of sneakers because that's all their parents could afford and the other kids were picking on them. Things like that, bullying, it all stems from, it all starts mental health issues.
Right. There's so many things we can prevent, by just, focus on the child when the child was,
Yeah, but
younger.
sometimes how do you prevent the material things that you can't afford? That's a tough nut to crack.
That's a tough nut to crack.
Yes, it is.
That's a tough nut to crack. That's a tough nut to crack.
And then you start sacrificing, things that you should be spending money on to make sure that your child is happy.
Right.
Or can survive in the school environment that they're in.
But the way
That's why I like uniforms.
the way you prevent the material stuff, is to really show them love and kindness. Because that's going to make a great impact on their mind. Because yes, they will, hunger and crave for the material stuff. Mm-hmm. But, what
They're
time
gonna
they
crave
will,
for it, yeah.
what time they understand, because they have love and they have the kindness and they have the, and that will give them the ability, or what they call a drive, to go out there and work hard
Exactly.
without the anxiety and the fear and and those type of stuff. Because they have a love and the mind is healthy and clear, they will do well at school and they will go out there and do well on the job.
Exactly. So now I'm looking at this book that says learning is easier than eating, and a generation's old recipe, but it also says 86% is spent outside the school. So 14% is spent in school. What percent you think is spent outside the home and outside the school? Just like outside when you go out to
Right,
play.
right,
That's
right.
where a lot happens.
And that's where a lot happens.
And that's where a lot of things are out of your control.
Right. There's a lot of time to spend. And even when they're at home, they spend a lot of time with television.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Sometimes that's safe though.
Yeah.
They're in the house.
They're in the house, yes, but the mind is elsewhere.
I said that, you know what? I said that to my son, who is a video game design graduate. And he said, and I said, Johnny, I said, you're always down here. Aren't you loneliness? And he goes, I'm not lonely at all. With technology today, the kids online they're playing each other online. They have the little headsets on like we did in the studio. They're talking to one another. There could be 3, 4, 5, 10 of them playing one game all at the same time. So they're not as lonely as we think they are.
That's true.
And I didn't know that until he explained it to me, because I'm like,
that's
why
so
you have on
true.
headsets? Because am I making too much noise, or is there noise outside or whatever? He goes, no, I'm talking to my friends. So, and they make friends that way.
No, that's true. There's good and bad in everything.
Yeah. And then another thing they do, they meet up at conventions, like gaming conventions. Well, he's into gaming. I'm sure other people do, other
Right.
kids do concerts and stuff like that. They meet up at conventions and then they meet each other in person.
Right.
It's
right.
real, and then you can see each other with, Snapchat and all that other stuff.
Yes.
So they're not as lonely as we think, and they're so advanced in technology. I'm technically challenged. I'll admit
Right.
it. I'm not on the computer that much unless I have to be. But, and they're learning from each other. I think now, and they're safe. So I'm adding a lot into it now because there's so much going on out there. And you don't have to worry about your kids. They're downstairs
Definite.
and they're connecting with other people.
Definitely. Because there's so much abuse, outside the home.
And you don't have to worry about peer pressure because they can't see their feet or what kind of sneakers they have on.
Right.
But it's when they go to school. So I'm thinking outside of school and outside of being outside, I think the computers are a good thing in
Of
this
course.
day and age. What do you think about that?
One of the greatest inventions is television.
Yeah.
But are we using it for the making best use of it?
They're using television for the games. And I guess they watch a couple of movies here and there, but mostly it's the games. They buy games online.
Right. If you can control a television by the playing games and it's a little different. Because I don't watch television much, because there's so much war,
Well, that's the
reporting
news.
the war, reporting
Yeah.
that's the news. So if you can
Yeah.
control that, that's magnificent.
Uh-huh.
But it's about, as I said, connecting with the outer world with the good stuff.
Right.
It's connect with the outer world with good stuff. For example, like the internet now, 2 children or 3, 4 of them can be helping each other with the homework.
Oh, yeah.
From different countries.
Working on projects. And a lot of schools do that. They assign groups to do, work on certain projects. I know it's something I do when I go to school.
Wow.
I'm going to be going back to school soon anyway because it's senior registration.
Right.
So one of the things I always mention as an insurance agent to parents is to always, communicate with your children, communicate with your family, communicate with your children, and if you see a problem, then flip your insurance card over. I hope everyone has insurance. I know there's a few people that don't. But if you do, flip your insurance card over. There's an 800 number. You can call the customer service of your insurance and find out what type of benefits you have. So if you recognize problems with your children, you can take them for group therapy. You can do a family group therapy. I've done that before. Right. Or you can do just, individual therapy. If depending on your child's age, I always go with them and we do a family because I want to get to know who they're talking to and what they're talking about. And then you have to at some point, and then again, based on your child's age, let your child go alone because there's a lot of things that if your child is, say, for example, they're being bullied, there's a lot of things that a child and or any person would tell a stranger rather than tell their parents or their brother because they're embarrassed.
Yeah, definitely.
They're embarrassed.
No,
So
those are some
group
good.
therapy and individual therapy is imperative, especially nowadays, because a lot of people suffer with mental stress, mental illnesses, and things that are really bothering them, and which can be resolved with communication.
Yeah. For example, I spent some time volunteer at the Salvation Army, and I met the A group there. So I've been around them to learn one or two stuff, what they're doing. And just by meeting and coming together and loving each other, caring for each other, supporting each other, a lot of people move away from alcoholism to live a normal life. So, what you said here, I've seen the evidence of it through the AA. And the Salvation Army too, because Salvation Army was a rehabilitation center.
So you go there because they have special people working there?
No, I was volunteer at Salvation Army.
Oh, you're volunteer.
It's a rehabilitation center.
But they do have challenged adults working there.
Yeah.
Is that true? Then they train them to go to like Stop and Shop?
Yes, the Salvation Army Rehabilitation Center is about rehabilitation.
Okay.
It's, people in jail come back and they
Oh,
rehabilitation
yeah.
into community.
Second chances.
People
Everybody
abuse
deserves a
alcohol
second chance.
and they rehabilitate them. So I've seen that program work because most of the people that work at Salvation Army, they come through that program.
I've seen this one young man. He came from, I think, he works at ShopRite. And I seen him, and I've been shopping at the same store forever, like 30 years or whatever. And I saw him start off as just a bagger. And he has a little physical handicap going on.
Right.
I saw him starting off as just a bagger. Then some years went by, and then he was at the register. Now, this young man is a manager.
Amen. Yes.
So... And I'm sure he had to get through a lot of adversity because he has physical disabilities. But now he's a manager. Like if something goes wrong, I'm buying something with the wrong price. I'm a very challenging person. I want the price that it says.
Right.
He'll have to go and look it up and things like that. So those types of programs are imperative. They're so important and they're so helpful to people just leading a normal life.
Right.
Even though they are handicapped.
Right.
So volunteers like yourself, I commend you for doing stuff like that. That's a beautiful thing. I volunteer for other things, but I've never done that. It takes certain people, like educators.
Right.
It takes certain people to do that. It really does.
No.
So
what I recommend about the group therapy is one I think that I did with parents in Jamaica, and it was like, I didn't sit as therapy, it was just parenting, helping out each other. And I said some of these kids were at the bottom of the class. And by talking to the parents, because they have challenges, something was going on, the parents was able to sort them out and help them to rise to the top of the class. So just by, talking to somebody, you learn so much that you can apply to your personal life.
Exactly.
If you are willing to listen.
Exactly. And then another thing in group therapy, you're learning from each other. And then if there's a question, somebody asks one question, they're answering to 2 or 3 other people because there's always somebody that has the same question, that want to know the same thing. Group therapy is so important for the parents. Training is important for the parents too.
Right.
Because if you have a really challenging child and they're in school, teachers go to school to learn how to implement structure to children with disabilities. And so when they're in school, they're going to do A, they're going to go in, have their breakfast. B, they're going to do, go and have their playtime. And C, they're going to go and, take their nap or whatever. So they're structured and they do it every 2 hours. Say, for example, I see that some of the problems are when they go home, the parents are not able to follow that structure. So having you go door to door, having you do group therapy, and having you help train the parents is just, it's just what everybody needs.
Right.
Because you just can't let the kids go. Some parents, they work all day, they just don't have the patience. And they'll just let them go and do whatever. But they got to be able to train the children.
Definitely.
And keep them on the same schedule.
And the same schedule, because about habits.
Yes.
It's about building decent habit and attitude.
Exactly. So I want to mention that these books, all these books that you've written, are online at, say your email address again, lessthanblack.com. It's on the screen.
Website, yeah.
Yep, you could go to lessthanblack.com and you can get these books. And I recommend reading.
It's on Amazon.
Learning is easier than eating.
It's at Amazon websites and Noble.
Okay.
Barnes and Noble websites.
Yep.
Most of the websites out there that sell books.
Okay, so yep. I would recommend going to Lester Black because you might get a little bit more than just books.
Yeah,
so I
definitely,
want to, any last words?
No, the children are the future.
Yes, they are.
So train them up right. It's a challenging job, but if you start early, you have 18 years to do it as a parent.
Exactly.
After 18 years, you might not have that amount of control over them.
Exactly. So thank you so much for tuning in to our show today. This is the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show, and we're on your side.
Thank you.